lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to getting the thing to pass.
It's a very clever, basic exploitation of the lack of economic understanding of the American voter.
Quite frankly, the American public doesn't actually care that much about the uninsured.
The American voter is too stupid to understand the difference.
It's sort of like a hit parade. Something tells me that no one is going to be laughing as Obamacare architect Jonathan Gruber testifies before Congress tomorrow. We're told he will be sitting at a separate table, like the kids' table, from HHS officials who want nothing to do with him or see that they ever had anything to do with him. Good luck on that. To the judge on what questions he would be asking no matter what table he'd be sitting. What do you think?
Well, the first thing I would want, and I assume that Congress has done this already, is his documents. I would want to see the bills he sent the Department of Health and Human Services. I would want to see his notes. I would want to see his reports and his draft reports so that I could see and focus in on with him where the intentionally ambiguous language was. So that's the first category of questions I would want based on the documents. Then I would want to know with whom he shared the documents. Who in the Department of Health and Human Services or the White House professor was aware of this intentionally confusing language? Then I would want to know what goal was to be served by the intentionally confusing language. See, the intentionally confusing language is a political problem for the president, unless Justice Department officials were involved and they misled the court. Then the government has a serious legal problem, because under those circumstances, the government can ask that the Sebelius case, that's the case that found Obamacare to be constitutional, be re-examined in light of this new evidence.
How likely is that, though?
Well, it'll depend on what answers they get from him. He's not a dummy. I mean, he is a professor at MIT. I don't know that he's going to tell them everything he wants to know, even though he will be under oath.
He'll apologize, probably. Right.
Well, I think he would have to apologize. They're going to run the tapes of what he said, so he can't deny that he said it.
There's another separate legal argument that he never lied about anything. He never lied about. He might have misrepresented how you sell a turkey.
Selling legislation cannot be the basis for undoing the legislation.
That is very well.
Unless those sales pitches, again, made their way to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department made, knowingly or unknowingly, material misrepresentations to the court. Stated differently, if the court relied on a trick that was put in the document in order to trick the court, they will want to re-examine their decision immediately.
Attacks or what have you.
Yes.
So let me ask you about what the impact will be if they discovered that he sold a bill of goods, and they have documents to that effect.
Well, it would depend on who was in on this trick. Let's say
someone at HHS.
Well, let's say HHS was in on it. Let's say some Democratic leadership in the House was in on it. It would be of disastrous political consequences for those people. The president, whose approval ratings are low and whose back is to the wall politically, would have lower approval ratings and would be
But no one else
farther.
pays attention. I mean, we're citing what Gruber's saying in all of this. No one pays as much attention, and maybe the Democrats, mainstream media, hope this goes away because this train has left the station. It can't be reversed, blah, blah, blah.
Again, unless this affected the federal court decisions, yes, the train has left the station. This guy is now a pariah on Capitol Hill. The people who paid him $400,000, interestingly, the president's annual salary, to write this report, don't even want to be seen at the same room with him, the same table with him in public. But that may be the extent of the political damage, depending upon what comes out tomorrow.
Well, you know they're going to have language and a series of tapes showing all the people quoting him ahead of time. Right. Many people did. Many people did.
Yes, yes.
So,
including that infamous quote from Mrs. Pelosi, you have to pass the bill so we can read it and see what's in there.
And he knew what was in it, and so did she.
And he knew it was in there. But it is interesting because the Supreme Court decision hangs on whether or not this is a tax. And he argued in one of the pieces you just ran that that's the language that was intentionally ambiguous. They may
selling it.
They may not be out of the water.
Do you remember, Judge, when you and I were going through this, and you were far smarter than I, but I would scratch my head like Columbo and say, it sounds too good to be true.
Yes.
You can't cover everyone. You can't cover all pre-existing conditions, lovely as that is. Keep your kids on your policy till they're 26 or later, and not expect to pay more. But you just can't.
You're not going to like what I'm about to tell you. The same court that found this constitutional, in other cases, has said the government can lie, the government can cheat, It can deceive and it can mislead, and that is apparently what has happened here.
Wow. Well, that's scary, Judge. Thanks
Yes,
for
it is.
ruining my evening.
Sorry.
All right, Judge Anna Napolitano, scary smart. Like, there's smart, and then there's scary smart, then there's like Twilight Zone. That's where he is. That's a good thing.
God love you.
All right, well, ahead of the rush, are Republicans trying to keep that $1 trillion spending bill hush-hush?